goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and Onyx, find a rider. I get those goosebumps every time.
Newcastle United.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mugs. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and we are back again. Welcome to Lloyd Kelly NUFC for a transfer special. This time, we're looking at centre-back. So we're looking at something a little bit different than what we normally do. And look, thank you for watching. Already in the chat, make sure you're getting the likes up and get your questions in for us, all things transfer-related and all things centre-backs as well. We'll make sure we have a little section at the end where we can ask some questions. So get your questions in and we will ask them at the end as well. But get those likes up. That is for sure. And if you're doing a dual watching us three boys talk transfers on Loaded Bag NUFC and you're watching the Champions League, you would have already seen a goal as what was just put in the chat a second ago. Inter Milan have taken the lead, which makes me happy because I'm not the biggest Barcelona fan. But boys, how are we this evening? How are we feeling about all things Newcastle United and transfers?
All good with me. Just after coming from the training pitch for GAA training, so it is hot and sweaty out there. But yeah, lovely day and a few more nice days to come. But I want to add as well. As we do all our talking about centre backs only, right side centre backs. I want us to come at the end though with two suggestions. We'll leave it at that because it might be difficult just to go with one. And for these one that we've talked about, so someone that we've talked about, and the other one can be a random. If we mightn't even talk about. So bear that in mind. That's the question at the very end.
So we come with someone who we've spoken about who would be our target, and also we bring another one to the table where we go.
If you have another one, or you can bring two.
Okay. I'll have a little think about that during the show. Thank you, Dazzler.
How are you, Chris?
I'm all good, mate. All good. A little bit gutted out working from home today, and I didn't get out as much as what I'd like to have done. I did pop into the car at one point, and it said it was 34 degrees. So I wish I'd spent the majority of the day outside, but unfortunately I spent it inside. But reasonably good day in work. And yeah, all good. I'm really looking forward to this show actually, because I think we've got lots of options. Pete's already teased a few options that we're going to talk about, which is really exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, and I'll be honest, boys, as well. I don't want to segue here, but the game this weekend feels very significant. It's kind of dawned on me in the last 24 hours, and I'm a bit like, ooh, I'm starting to get a bit nervous already. It's only Wednesday, and already I'm getting a bit nervous. But I'm on the whole, I'm all good. Pete, how are you doing, fella?
All good. Good day at work. Busy week ahead. But look, it is what it is. We'll look forward to the weekend as we always do. And yeah, you mentioned obviously a little bit nervy about the weekend, and it was where I was going to start. So might as well flick this one up, because obviously we've got the news this evening from Craig Hope that Joelinton will miss the final 4 games of the season. His knee problem doesn't seem to be serious, although the club always say that, but it seems to be serious enough that he'll miss the next month and the last 4 games of the season. Big blow to Newcastle United. Maybe that's why the nerves have kicked in potentially, Chris. But boys, why? What are your initial reactions to that news around Joelinton?
Yeah, disappointed that we're going to miss him. You'd wonder, would he make a surprise comeback towards the end, though? You never know. This is Eddie Howe here. He loves the old mind games. But yeah, look, let's assume that he's gone for the rest of the season. Then Willock and Lewis Miley, in particular, need to step up. Lewis Miley, I think you said it first, Chris, in our chat, that you'd be putting him in there from the start, especially in the away game against Brighton. I think I align with what you're thinking there. And yeah, we said it last week when Willock started. We need to see more from Willock. So it's the gauntlet's thrown down from him. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, disappointed. He's a massive part of our first team squad. Joelinton, and when he's not on the team, I think it's noticeable. One of my very close friends, who's a vet, he often says to me, "If I could take any player from your team, you think I'd say Alexander Isak," but he said it's actually Joelinton. He said I would love Joelinton in the Liverpool team. Really, very big fan of him, and I can see why, because he's. There's not many Joelintons knocking around in the Premier League, particularly. And when he's not on the team, we don't seem to have the same bite in midfield, the same intensity. That's not to say that we can't bring it, but naturally we just feel like, he's a big loss. He's a big loss. I mean, there's 4 games left. Let's see what we can do, and I'm sure we're more than capable of getting the result and getting it over the line. But am I disappointed? I'm a little bit worried over it. Yes, I'm not going to lie and say that it's fine. We'll be okay. But yeah, it's a hammer blow. It really, really is. But hopefully, as you said, Daz, hopefully it's not too serious. The reports have indicated, and as long as he gets fit and better and makes sure he's bang ready for next season, then I'm sure we can get by. What about you, Pete? What were you like when you heard the news?
Yeah, I was gutted, if I'm being honest. Joelinton is one player that we don't have a replacement for in this team, a direct replacement for, and he is a crucial part of our midfield. Sandro Tonali has been absolutely sensational. Bruno has been very, very good this season, throughout the whole of this season. But Joelinton, together with those two, it creates a midfield that is sometimes unstoppable. And with big games coming up, he's a massive miss. Whether it's Willock or Miley, neither of them can do what Joelinton does, and what he does in his role is really crucial. So it is a massive, massive miss. But as what's been said, either Willock or Miley are going to need to step up. In fact, you know what? Both of them are going to need to step up. I think they're both going to be needed at certain parts in these next 4 games. Personally, I think Willock starts. And Willock will start because it's the left-hand side of midfield, and he's that natural replacement. As much as people will call for Miley to play, Miley doesn't play on the left. So I think naturally Willock will start, but Miley will then come off the bench. He'll be the next one in line, and it means that he will need to step up as well. So big performances needed from both players. Big miss not having Joelinton, but look, this team is still capable of winning matches without Joelinton. We've proved it before. We'll prove it again. And look, with Champions League very, very close to being secured, we would expect these boys to be bang up for it. And massive game on Sunday, absolutely massive. I think this could be potentially, in my opinion, the decider on whether we get Champions League football or not, depending on what we get out of it. So let's wait and see. Big 4 weeks coming up for Newcastle United. Let's see what happens with that. Now, just moving along with that, there was a little bit of an update with regard to some transfer news, and obviously it links with the show that we're talking about today, because Mark Douglas had reported that they're looking at 3 or 4 big signings with regards to this summer. But it says Champions League football will help on that front, but how they adapt and learn from the mistakes of their last European campaign will be intriguing. So looking at 3 or 4 big signings, that doesn't say that there's only going to be 3 or 4 signings coming through, but 3 or 4 big signings. Is that a bit of a surprise? Not a surprise to you boys? We've had a little bit of an update. We've speculated on how many players we think will come in, but Mark Douglas seems to think 3 or 4 big signings.
I expect that. I'm not surprised by that at all, Pete, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to jump to Chris, but I see Todd Bowley's in the chat. So Todd Bowley always makes an appearance on these fully loaded transfer shows. But I have a question for Todd Bowley, because we talked about Maresca yesterday on Top Table Talk. And Todd, are you sacking Maresca if Chelsea don't get Champions League? That's my question to you, Todd. Think about it. Get your answers in the chat. Sorry, Chris.
No, mate, no. Do you know what? I was toying with the idea of whether I was surprised or not, because I wanted to say I was pleasantly surprised in the fact that, it's good news. Am I surprised as in, do we think we need it? No, like we definitely do need it. And I think we've been starved of first team additions. And I don't mean transfers. I mean players who can come in straight into that first team. And I think, for the last 3 windows, we've not made any significant signings, bar Lewis Hall, who was already on loan. So for me, I think minimum 3, 4 would be lovely. But I do expect as well, Pete, like you've already alluded to, the fact that, there will be other fillers as well. I don't think it will be 3 or 4 big hitters and that's it. I think there will be other players who will come in, certainly, to strengthen the squad as a whole. My first thought when you said it, funnily enough, was would you class James Trafford as a big signing? And that was my first thought, and I thought, because to me, the way that's worded, that's like Sandro Tonali-esque signings, which is really exciting, really, really exciting, because if you're going out spending 40, 50 million on 3 or 4 players, they're going to be very, 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 very good players. So that does excite me. But how that will look or what that will be made up of, I don't know. But I think it's long overdue. And yeah, I think we need it, because if we do end up in the Champions League or Europe alone, we need to strengthen the squad, and I think that's clear. We've been banging that drum for the last 18, 24 months. Things have improved because obviously we're doing okay on the injury front. Of late, I think there's only a couple of players out. Is it now? It's only Lascelles and Joelinton. Now Sven Botman's back. So we're okay on the injury front, but we're 3 or 4 injuries away from. Oh God, we've got 3 keepers on the bench again, which we want to try and avoid. So that proves that we need 3 or 4 players. But no, it's great news, and hopefully that is the case.
Yeah, I read it like that, to be fair. When it said 3 or 4 big signings, you used the likes of Isak or Tonali as the benchmark in terms of level of signing, and we haven't really done that before. Signed 3 or 4 of that level of signing in sort of one window. So for me, I took that as a massive positive. I thought if it is like that and they go out and sign that level of player 3 or 4 times, that's monstrous. That's a monstrous summer for Newcastle United. We haven't experienced that since this ownership took over. But yeah, I think there could be as many as 6 signings come through the door this summer. I don't be surprised if there's a cheaper deal or a free transfer being signed as a squad player to come in and fill the squad. I think anywhere between 5 and 6 will be coming through the door in the summer, because I think this summer is absolutely massive. And to help that along, boys, we need players out. I just want a quick word on this one for you just before we get into centre-backs talks. We've got a couple of things to cover first. This is sort of the new rounds of players going out, because, of course, if you want to get players in, players need to move on. And the latest one is Sean Longstaff being linked with Leeds United again. Had been linked last summer, has been linked again. Mark Douglas in the iPaper was reporting Sean Longstaff is a potential target and understands that, but he says any tensions must be avoided. Leeds must be united to stay in the Premier League, and that means keeping Farke in charge. Obviously, there's a bit of a to-in and fro-in at the moment with Daniel Farke, whether he's going to stay at the club or not as manager. And that maybe could potentially be critical in Sean Longstaff moving on. But look, just a quick word on that. Sean Longstaff, we anticipate he's moving on. Happy with that. And let's do an old price check. How much do you think we're going to get for Sean Longstaff? We'll start with you, Daz. Go on.
Look, I think that Sean's time has come to an end at Newcastle. I think in the next 4 games, though, he may have a role to play yet, and it would be great for him to go out on the swan song. But I think his career at Newcastle is over now. He'll go with us thanking for his service, came through the youth system. Remember, he used to be great at having a shot from long range when he started off. Haven't seen as much of that in the last while. But yeah, the price. 14.5 million.
14.5 million. Okay, very, very specific there from Daz. Chris, your quick thoughts and most importantly, the price tag. What you go for?
Yeah, what I would say is I've seen a couple of people in the chat, saying that they would keep hold of Sean Longstaff, and I get why you say that. But for me, I think you, for anyone who thinks that Sean Longstaff is going to stay this summer, I think you need to prepare yourselves for the fact that he probably will leave. I know we've said that for a couple of windows now, but I do think his time has come to an end at Newcastle United. And do you know what? The thing that kind of rubber stamped that for me was when Eddie Howe was asked in a press conference before he got ill, and he was asked about Sean Longstaff's future in the summer. And normally he's really important player. Let's see what happens. Going forward. A very generic answer, but I'm pretty sure I don't know the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, "Oh, we'll have to wait and see what happens." I.e., his future is uncertain, and to me, that just set off alarm bells, which indicates to me that he probably knows his time's up at the club. And also, even judging from recent substitutions, Sean Longstaff tends to be kind of, very much behind Louis Miley, which he probably should be now in the pecking order. So for me, I think he will move on. The Leeds link doesn't surprise me at all, and without sounding condescending, I think he'd be a fantastic signing for Leeds. I genuinely do, because he is a good player. And I'm not saying that he's not. I just don't think he's a regular top 6 player. I just don't. But I think he's a really, really good Premier League player, and I think he'd do a really good job for Leeds. So I think it'd be a shrewd signing. In terms of what I would want, I'm going to slightly raise Daz. I'm going to say that the minimum I would want for Sean Longstaff is 15 million. Can we get more? Potentially. But I think the minimum should be 15 million. I think it was a really good comment. Someone popped in the chat there, which kind of summed it all up, really, which I liked. Yeah, from Genius Divine Album. 28-year-old, 1 year left on his contract. He thinks 10 million, but for me, I think it's got to be minimum 15 million. The fact that he's such an experienced player. Yes, he's only got a year, but for me, if he had 3 or 4 years left on his contract, I think we could get 30 million for him. The fact he's only got a year would indicate maybe half of that. So that's where I've got me 15 million fee from, basically. What about you, Pete?
I agree with you with regards to Leeds being a good club for him, and I think bottom half of the Premier League is exactly where Sean Longstaff needs to be. If you think about where he played his best football for Newcastle United on a regular basis under Rafa Benitez, it was fighting that sort of relegation battle in that sort of part of the table where he's able to play every week and perform at the level that he wants to. And I think that would be perfect for him. Equally, with Leeds United, they'd be getting a player that's playing for a team that's fighting at the top end of the table. He's playing. They're signing a player that was a part of the squad that won a trophy last season, playing in a team that only a year ago was playing Champions League football and scoring in the Champions League. For me, I'm going to raise you again, Chris. I'm saying minimum 17 million. I'm saying anywhere between 18 and 20. I think we can. And the reason why I say that is because I'm looking at Sean Longstaff and I'm thinking, if Leicester City were able to get 20 million apiece for Oliver Skipp and Harry Winks,
100%.
Sean Longstaff's better than those 2 players.
He is,
in my opinion.
He is.
And he doesn't get anywhere near our team. But if they can get 20 million apiece for them,
but the contract
issue. Even so. And Milan have scored again. It is 2-0 against Barcelona.
Wow.
Yes. I've just seen them running off to the corner and celebrating like mad. And I have to be honest, for the last 5 minutes or so, Barca have been camped in Milan's box, not their half, they're boxed. So to see them pop up the other end and just smash another goal is wild. But this is what Inter Milan do. So 2-0 Inter Milan. But going back to agree with what I'm saying in terms of that pricing, boys?
I'll be honest, Pete. Oh, sorry, Daz. I was going to say,
I take it. I take your 20 million and do it now. I don't know. You never know. Yeah, how the negotiations go if he actually leaves, and if it's Leeds to go to again. Yeah, a bottom half Premier League team. Would be great for Sean Longstaff to try and keep them in the Premier League then as well.
Yeah. No, I think I quite like what Sophie shows here. I think 15 million with add-ons, and whether that rises it to 17, 18, whether it rises it to 20, you could even say if you stay in the Premier League, you give us an extra 5 million, and if he keeps them up, extra 5 million, which would be good for us. But then at the same time, you're also getting the overall fee if they stay up. I think Leeds, if Leeds make 3 or 4 really good signings, because I do still rate their squad, and I think their squad is far better than the likes of the 3 promoted clubs that came up this season. I think if they add 3 or 4 quality players to the squad, like Sean Longstaff, they've got a great chance of staying up. So I think 15 rising to 20, something like that. I think that would be fair, or 17 rising to 20, 22. I think that sounds about right.
Let's wait and see. But it looks like his days are numbered. That is for sure. So we'll move on before we get onto our first defensive centre-back target. We're going to do a little bit of a Kelly watch. Here is Juventus' current position, 4th in the table after the round of fixtures at the weekend. So looking good at this moment in time. But boys.
Yes.
These fixtures are not good. The last 4 games, particularly that next 2, Bologna away and Lazio away, the next 2 in line. And they are both, as you can see here, right in the mix with Juventus for European football. How are you feeling about that? Because as we've talked about getting money for Longstaff, we need that 20 million for Kelly. And just a reminder for anyone that's not aware, Juventus have to finish in a Europa Conference minimum spot to be able to trigger that clause of the 20 million. So are we worried? Is it coming in? What are we thinking, boys?
Well, Kelly's actually injured at the moment. He's got a hamstring injury, and they're looking at it again in 10 days' time, I think. So his season could potentially be over, isn't the other part of it? But let's see. I don't know. I'm too busy concentrating on Newcastle's run in now at the moment, but keeping half an eye on what's happening in 2-1. 2-1. Who scored for Barca? Oh, there's the balloons.
There's the balloons. There they are.
I'm not happy about it. I don't know why the balloons are there, but I just seen someone wheeling away. I think it might have been Yamin Lamal. So yeah, 2-1 it is. But yeah, Chris, your thoughts on it?
On
Lloyd Kelly?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Lloyd Kelly. Yeah, do you know what? When you and Daz were talking about it, and you know I love the devil's advocate, boys. You know I love it. Do you think there's been any talks behind the scenes? I mean, first and foremost, I would love 20 million for Lloyd Kelly, and I hope Juventus get European football, and we get that 20 million in, because it's really, really good. It's a good fee. But I was just going to ask, do you think there will be anyone behind the scenes at Newcastle United who will be possibly preparing for Lloyd Kelly coming back? And also, do you think that there may be a little bit of perhaps people won't be as devastated as maybe the people initially thought, that Lloyd Kelly could potentially be coming back to Newcastle, having been 6 months more experienced, having played in Serie A, still a really good age. I'm not going to say great, but a really good age. I think he's still only 26. Let's not forget, and it's very easy for us, or not just us, but Newcastle fans to kind of go, oh, we don't want him, he's rubbish, oh, he's crap. He's still a very, very good centre-back. And he's going to be 6 months more experienced now he's been in Serie A with Juventus. Do you see a future for Lloyd Kelly if Juventus don't get European qualification? And do you think that Eddie Howe's going to be like, we need to get rid of him, we need to get this fee in? Or do you think it might actually be, tell you what, bring him back into the fold? It's another body, it's another option.
I think they've made the decision to let him go in the first place, so they've got over that hurdle in their head. But it would have to be for the right price. I don't think they're going to let him go on the cheap to anyone. So the starting point will be 20 million. They might go slightly below that for another deal, maybe. But not. I don't think they'll let him go for 15. Let's say they won't. Yeah. They'll keep. It doesn't make probably sense.
Pete,
I think there's a chance he comes back as cover at left back. I think that's where I can see him coming back. Obviously, if he comes back, he's third choice. Botman's back, Burns in the mix to start on that left-hand centre-back position. I don't think Burn goes back to left back, by the way. I think that's done. So for me, I think if he comes back into the fold as a left back cover, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It's probably the reason why we signed him, because in that season, his last season at Bournemouth, he was playing most of his football at left back, and I just think that's why we signed him, and that's where he'll play. But he won't play ahead of Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall will be firmly first choice when he's back playing. So that's the only way I can see him coming back. The question you've got to ask is now he's left and he's experienced regular football at Juventus, will he want to come back? Will he now decide, actually, you know what, I'm probably best off playing my football elsewhere? So then there's a question. And I still think we can get 20 million for him. You know, the fact that the 20 million has already been agreed with Juventus, and a team like Juventus have already been willing to pay that sort of amount of money for him. I think if another team comes in for him, that's the benchmark, 20 million minimum to get him out of Newcastle. And I do think there'll be teams that would pay it. So let's wait and see. But look, I actually think Juventus get European football. I think this deal gets done. So I don't think it'll be a problem for Newcastle United.
Yeah.
So let's move on. We've done the Kelly talk as well. Let's go on to centre-backs. Now, we'll start with this centre-back because he has been the hottest conversation that's been had for a long while now. Will we or will we not get him? Are we or are we not interested in this centre-back? And it's I'll do a little kind of grab through because it's been an ongoing situation. It's Dean Huijsen at Bournemouth. Now, we know he's got a 50 million release clause. It's out there. And we know he's got suitors in Spain, as Graham Bailey talks about here, and suitors in the Premier League. David Ornstein talks about us being one of a number of teams that's met with his representatives already. Scott Wilson also reports that he's our top defensive target. And more recently, a friend of the channel, Sami Mokbel, has reported that he is, again, of interest of Newcastle United and other Premier League clubs. Now, the question I've got for you boys is, are we genuinely in with a chance of signing Dean Huijsen on that 50 million release clause? What's your general feeling of that potential deal happening this summer? Yes.
Really depends who else is in for him. Because we should be all over it. Because he is class. 20 years old, Spanish international, came through the Dutch youth system as well. Played for the Dutch in his youth. He's still very young, so great age, definitely a great age, and someone you'd build the team around going forward. Passing, playing out the back, getting interceptions in, composed. He is quality, absolute quality. But like, are Liverpool going for him, for example? Do the Spanish sides want to pay 50 million for a centre back? So that's the big question for me. If they're getting indications that they're in consideration for him to join us, then definitely get involved. Otherwise, step back and move on, because there's plenty of other targets, but he would be top of the tree.
Chris, are we in with a genuine chance of signing Dean Huijsen, in your opinion?
Yes. Yes, I think we are. And the reason I say that is because it seemed like he was bound for Real Madrid. I think he was pining for Real Madrid. His agent was coming out and saying, he's been linked to Real Madrid and top player, top club, all stuff like that. All the right noises were being made. And then we heard a few weeks ago, didn't we, that apparently he wanted to stay in the Premier League, which tells me that maybe that Real Madrid move isn't on, or maybe Real Madrid are looking elsewhere. So the fact that he wants to stay in the Premier League, I think then it's advantage Newcastle. And the reason I say that is because those clubs that you mentioned there, Pete, Chelsea, who have about 47 different centre-backs, I think he'd be mad to go there. If it's all about the money, there's a potential that he goes there. But for me, I don't think he does. For Arsenal, and Arsenal are the key one for me. Arsenal are the threat. And the reason I say that is because I believe it wouldn't surprise me if Real Madrid were more interested in Saliba. Now, if Real Madrid make a move for Saliba and he leaves, Arsenal then need a replacement, and Arsenal will probably go in for Huijsen. And somebody in the chat mentioned there, go in, pay the clause, go and get him. I think the later it goes on in the window, I think the more difficult it is for us to get him. If we strike early and we put the money down, we put the wages down for him. Don't forget, somebody mentions in the chat there, that his salary might be too high. I don't think he's on a very significant salary at Bournemouth. I'd be very surprised if he was. I think you're probably talking maybe 40, 50 grand a week at tops, by the way. I don't think it'd be any more than that. I think if Newcastle came in and said, we'll give you 100 grand a week, sign a 4-year deal, and after 2 years, we'll start negotiating and see if we can get you an increase, I think he'd be all over that. It could even be if he's got aspirations of, playing for one of those big Spanish clubs, whether it be Barca or Real. It could even be where you put a clause in. If you're paying 50 million for him and you go, right, okay, well, we'll stick a clause in for 100 million. And there's many ways that you can tempt him and get him in to sign that deal at the club. He is a great age, and it's a great point you boys made. He ticks nearly every box. I haven't been watching Dean Huijsen that closely, but a few weeks back I was watching him playing for Bournemouth. And I've seen him just pick the ball up and bring it out into the midfield. And he looks so calm, so, happy with the ball at his feet. And he was picking forward passes. He looked absolutely brilliant. And I thought, yeah, you can see why people are looking at this kid. And bearing in mind, he's so young and he's so, calm and cool under pressure. And I just thought he's the closest player I've seen in terms of comfort on the ball to Fabian Schär. He's the closest one I've seen close up. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's others out there, but maybe I just haven't watched them play. He excites me, and if we're talking about bringing in 3 or 4 big signings, I would class that as a big signing. And I think the fee's set. Just go and get the deal done. There's no haggling to be had. Just go and get the deal done.
The chatters and also AI is coming back with 30k. Sophie has it, and so does Kenzie as well. Yeah. He's going to get a massive increase. Even if he stayed at Bournemouth, he'd be getting a massive increase, and he's only after signing the 6-year contract. So he's getting a better bumper deal no matter what he does. But his agent is rubbing his hands, I'm sure, at the prospect of what's to come this summer.
By the way, sorry, Pete. Who was the fourth? Oh, the fourth club was Liverpool. Again, I think it's come a year too early for Liverpool. Now that Van Dijk signed a new 2-year deal, 400 grand a week as well. By the way, apparently, now that Van Dijk has signed a new deal, Konate's after a new deal. They've got Joe Gomez. They've got Jarrell Quansah. Is he gonna really want to try and compete with those lads? I just don't see it. Whereas at Newcastle, it's like there's your path. There's your path to the first team. Come and be the first choice centre back. Same at Arsenal. If they've still got Saliba and Gabriel, same thing. Chelsea. Yeah, I mean, he should walk straight into the Chelsea team. I'm not suggesting for the minute that he wouldn't, but there's that much competition. There's that many players around him. And also, is he looking at it and thinking, do you know what? I don't want to end up on the scrap heap, end up falling out with the manager, or maybe the manager doesn't fancy me. And they do have a habit of swapping managers, Chelsea, as you've already asked Todd Daz.
Yes.
So again,
he's keeping him, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, is he keeping? Oh, is he keeping him out?
He's keeping him. He's keeping Enzo. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, out of those 4 clubs, there's only one club that would attract me, taking away the fact I'm a Newcastle fan. There's only one club I'd be interested in joining out of those 4, personally.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking too much Saliba with Arsenal. I was thinking more Gabriel. There's been more links with him moving on to another team this summer, and I think if he goes, but the same rules apply. I think that they're going to need to replace. Liverpool have got, like you said, too many centre backs, and it's not cut and dry. Newcastle United. I think we do need to get Champions League football if he comes to us, because I think he's ready for Champions League football. I think he's going to have to be guaranteed first choice to come to Newcastle United. And I think that's where you're going to have a really difficult conversation with Fabian Schär. I think if we're signing someone like Dean Howson, he's going to have to be first choice, and he deserves to be, because he is, and you've touched on it, Chris, but what you described, what you saw him doing for Bournemouth, it's exactly what I saw him doing for Roma the January previous, and why I was so attracted to him. I think I showed you boys a little clip of him, and the way he just Miranda's forward with the ball into those spaces. It's exactly what Fabian Schär does, and I actually go on better. I actually think he's better than Fabian Schär. Fabian Schär at long ball is fantastic. Ooh, he's really good. But for me, I think he's better on the ball. But game on. Give
us the 2-2, Pete.
Oh, yeah, the balloons. We're getting them.
I don't think they would do it this time.
Oh, no. Hey, there we go. It's a Desmond now.
Well, I didn't think it would do it, to be fair. It's a lovely goal. It's a lovely, lovely goal. Some fantastic.
Who's just popped that in the chat?
I did, because it's coming from a TBR football article, and he's on Danish TV. He's saying that he could be sold. He's saying that the Brentford are they're a selling club. He's admitting that. So if the price is right, it could be sold. Here, I'll pop it in our chat so you can see it.
Jesus,
I put the link there for.
Oh, cheers,
look later.
Well, it's actually on Sky. That it was said. I know TBR reported on it, but it came from Sky initially, and they're the ones that are reporting that because basically what Thomas Frank said is that he's admitted that Brentford are a selling club, and that's what sparked the article, and that's what sparked all the interest. So that was today. He's basically admitted that Brentford are a selling club, so that sparked everyone talking about Brian and Bremo. It sparked for other clubs the interest in Wisa, and so that's where it's kind of come from off the back of that. So I had it. I took a picture of it. I thought we were sticking to centre back, which is why I didn't bring it on.
We're like,
sorry,
chasing butterflies.
But yeah, let's wait and see with Dean Howson. But I do think we need to be playing Champions League football.
Yeah,
we're going to have any chance of getting Dean Howson. So that's an interesting one. But let's run on to another longer running saga, because this one was a nightmare in the summer. Didn't work out. Went really quiet, and just in the last week or two has really started to ramp up again. And it's this man, Marc Guehi. Now, Graham Bailey has reported there's an expectation that Steve Parish, someone who refers to all of his players as generational talents, will accept a deal for Marc Guehi this summer. Newcastle United are at the top of that list that remain keen, along with one or two others, Chelsea and Tottenham, already been mentioned. He's mentioned again, Graham Bailey, that we are firmly in contention. Look away, Chris, because Jack Rother has also reported from another news source That's all we'll say on that. Newcastle are leading the race for Marc Guehi this summer. So it's coming from multiple sources that Marc Guehi is a target once again for Newcastle United. Boys, my question to you is, after last summer, would you take Marc Guehi as your right-hand centre-back signing?
Yes. A comment I wanted to get on your commentary on Dean Huijsen, Chris, is you mentioned it drags on and drags on. No, whoever we go for has to be done early. So none of this waiting around, because we saw what happens with that. So that leads me to Marc Guehi. He's 1 year left in his contract now. He's 25 in July. In England international, obviously. But what you're also getting with Marc Guehi, and maybe long term as well, with trips in the latter stages of his career, so you're getting a captain in Marc Guehi. So yes, it's a yes from me, but at the right price and only early in the window. If it drags on any longer than 10 days, bin it off, go and move on, because we cannot be hanging around again.
Yeah.
Chris, your thoughts on Marc Guehi? Would you take him as your right-hand centre-back?
Yeah, I would. But we've, as Daz has rightly said, we've had our fingers burnt already, and I don't want to be embroiled in a big transfer saga again and it drag on and on and on. I think if I was on the Newcastle board, if I was lucky enough to be, and they all decided that they wanted to go for Marc Guehi, I'd agree a price amongst us all, and I'd say, right, that's the fee we go in with, and we give them a week to respond, and whether they delay it, whether they try and increase it, whatever, I just wouldn't have it. I'd just say, final offer, this is what we're offering, are you interested, yes or no, and then walk away if the deal can't be done. It will be interesting, actually, Pete, and maybe that's your next question, so I don't want to ruin it, but it would be interesting to see how much you boys think would prize Marc Guehi away from Crystal Palace, given that he's in his last year. But yeah, for me, I always sound like a broken record here, but I'm always keen on players that this board want. And the reason I say that is because I think you could probably count on one hand how many transfer mistakes they've made since they've taken over the club. And I say that's probably sounding really harsh, actually, because I don't actually believe there's that many. So for me, I trust when they say that there's a player that they want, the board and the manager, then I'm ultra keen to bring them in, because this isn't like previous regimes where it's just, he's had a few good games, let's go and get him. There's a lot of research been done, and there's a lot of playbacks, I'm sure, and studying and analysing. So for me, whatever player that they want, I'm really excited by, because I know that they believe they're getting a bargain, or they believe that they may be underpriced, or they can get more out of them. So if they still want Marc Guehi, then I still want Marc Guehi. But I just don't want it to be dragged on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it gets to July, August, and then we're like, still haven't signed a centre back, we're still after Marc Guehi. I just don't want to do that again.
Yeah, I hear it. For me,
take it.
For me, I'm not paying 45-50 million for Marc Guehi this summer. No. The figure I've had in my head, even from last summer, that if we went in for him again, particularly this summer, it'd be 40 million. I don't think I'd be paying any more than 40 million for Marc Guehi now. I think Frieden put in there that he'd not been good this season. I don't believe that. I think he has been good this season. I just think Maxence Lacroix has been better. I think he's been their best centre-back this season. I think him front and centre has been absolutely brilliant as that central defender in the back three. I think he's been absolutely superb. He'd be one I'd be bringing in. If you're looking for a one out off the cuff, Daz, you asked for a centre-back off the cuff, Maxence Lacroix, he's my guy. I've been so impressed with him. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. So I think that's the reason why Marc Guehi isn't it hasn't been seen in the same light as he was last season, because he's now got an equally good centre back next to him. But I think he's still a fantastic centre back. I won't be paying any more than 40 for him. And actually, I really hope that if we are interested in him, that he remembers what effort we went through last season to try and get him. And I would hate that if someone like Liverpool or someone like Tottenham or someone like Chelsea came and swooped in and showed their interest alongside us. I would like to think that he would be someone that would remember the fact that we were desperate to sign him last summer and we were offering the sort of money that we were. And I would like to think that would be something that would be taken into consideration with him. And I'd want him to turn around and say, look, they're playing Champions League football. They were desperate to sign me. I want to go and play for Newcastle United. I want to go and play for Eddie Howe. I'd love to see it. It might not be the case. Football's not always like that. But I'd like to see that about him because he is very professional. He seems to be that way inclined in terms of the way he thinks. That's what I would like to see from him if we are genuinely at the table for him in the summer. So there's kind of my thoughts on him.
Yeah, that's fair, mate.
I'd like to go one further, Pete. If we are going in for him and we're going in with a decent offer, that I'd like to see him. Like, now this is the time, especially if Palace were to win the cup as well, to even fucking hand in a transfer request or something to I don't think he will, but now is the time. They can't go on forever because they're going to be left with him going on a free transfer if they don't sort something out. So I think he has to go this summer.
Yeah, I think he'll want to go this summer. Yeah, unless Palace win the FA Cup and get European football that way, which is still a possibility. I think if they don't win the FA Cup, then I think he'll want to go and play European football. I don't think he'll want to wait any longer to play.
Can't.
He ain't going to want to wait until after the World Cup to go and play for another team. And there's no guarantees that he's going to play as well again for England. There's no guarantees that he's going to be at the height that he was for the teams to be looking after him and wanting him. And he's 25. It's the perfect time for him to move on. As Friday said, he's 25 now. The perfect time for him to move on and really kick on. So in
July, it's July. He's 25. He's 24 now.
All right, okay. So still a great age. 24, great age. They're kind of my thoughts on Marc Guehi. I think there's a little bit more to go on that one. Dean Huijsen, I'd certainly have him as the top of my list if I was picking out the two. But Marc Guehi is not a bad option as well. Now, I want to throw three different centre-backs at you. We can look through them all individually because it was reported that Newcastle have three other centre-backs targeted alongside the likes of Dean Huijsen and Marc Guehi. And it was these. So Give Me Sport reported that three centre-backs were on the short list. Ousmane Diomande, Malik Chow, and Jan-Paul Van Heck of Brighton. So three really interesting targets there. But we'll start with Diomande, Daz, because I know you've talked about him before. He's been a player that has been linked with Newcastle United. Do you think that's a viable option for Newcastle this summer? Would you still want Newcastle to be back at the table for Ousmane Diomande?
Yeah, just refresh myself on his latest details today. He's still a beast, absolute beast. Excellent headers as well, interceptions. Could be our Virgil van Dijk. That's what I'm thinking as well. He's only 21 years old. Ivory Coast international, right-footed, but can play on both sides in centre back. What the question is, what price would Sporting want for him? And I'm sure Man United would be looking at a few players from Sporting as well, with the manager coming from there. But I think Ousmane Diomande is probably my wild card pick. I didn't know we were going to bring him up, but I would have him. I'd go back and be talking about for a few years, so he's still so young.
Definitely. And Chris, I'll come to you with this player because It's a player that we were talking about a lot last year. We thought this deal was going to be done, and it's Malik Chow. Now he has been linked with Newcastle United. Graham Bailey's again reported that Newcastle still have an interest in him, and there are other Premier League teams that are looking at him. AC Milan haven't had the best season, but he has had good moments this season, so still playing at a decent level. What's your thoughts on Malik Chow? Would you be interested in going back to the table for him?
Yeah, it's a bit of a rinse from a piece of my last answer, really. Again, if the club are still interested in him and he's still on the radar, absolutely. We looked into him quite a bit, didn't we? In the previous, it was the previous summer, I think it was. We as a channel have seen enough of him, and I think the thing that attracts me about Malik Chow is the fact that I think he would be a really good fee. I don't think we would have to pay an extortionate fee to bring him in. Obviously, Van Hecker's on that list, and Diamande, or Diamand. But the problem is, I think both of those will command extraordinary fees. Whereas I think with Malik, and what I will add as well, actually, I'm glad I've started talking or waffling on. I could not believe how low down in the table AC Milan are. That again could be a deal breaker, because if we get Champions League football and we go back to AC Milan, go back knocking on the door and saying, how about Malik Chow again? You could find that the fees even reduced from what it was last time. I think they wanted somewhere in the region of 40 million. If you can pick up Malik Chow for something like, I don't know, 30,000 to 35 or something like that, he's got the pedigree, hasn't he? German international, really, really great age. Yes, there's a bit more of a risk because he obviously hasn't played Premier League football. But when you're buying a player who looks to have the raw potential to be able to play in the Premier League, it's less of a risk. And he looks like somebody who would be able to adapt to the Premier League. So yeah, I'm definitely still interested in Malik Chow, and I think he would be an excellent partner for Sven Botman, because I think he would complement him well, because I think he's got a different skill set to Botman. So he basically is the kind of centre back that we're looking for.
You're right. He has all the attributes. Like, he's physically tall, he's quick, he's good in the tackle. Remember watching him in the pre-season when we thought we were potentially close. He was up against Real Madrid, and I thought I think he was on for like 70, 75 minutes. I thought he defended excellently. Up against Real Madrid, I thought he was brilliant, and yeah, he hasn't had or AC Milan, I should say, haven't had the greatest of seasons this season. It could well swing it, because we all know when Italian teams, particularly that are expected, it'll be the same for Juventus if they didn't get European football. If they're not in Europe and getting that extra money, they are going to have to caveat for that by selling players. They're going to have to. So if that was the case and they don't get European football, which at this moment in time they're not,
6 points off it. 6 points off it.
Yeah, at that point they are going to have to sell players to make up for the loss that they're all playing Champions League football last season, and then now they're dropping off. That amount of money that's being lost, it's not like Premier League clubs where we get it back through TV money and all the rest of it. They don't get that same benefit. They have to sell players. And so that could be if Newcastle still really wants him and they're smart, they go in quickly with that type of fee. 40 million, not a chance. Not after last season, the AC Milan not getting European football. 30 million, which was initially the fee that we thought would get the deal done. Back in 30 million, Paul Mitchell, you get your man. Don't know what you think, Daz.
No, I'd go there as well. Definitely. I remember we're getting the Milan guys on, and we got their opinion as well. What's the journalist we got on? And he had some doubts over Malik Chow, and it kind of petered off a bit from there. Then, but I'm going to segue a bit here, Pete. I'm going to segue because Chris likes a bit of FIFA chemistry. But how about speaking of the Dutch? Because Jan-Paul van Heck, he does speak Dutch. He plays. He's got some caps now for the Netherlands, and the symmetry there with Botman. You never know. 25 in June, right-footed. A really good player. Someone we're going to see an awful lot more at the weekend, I'm afraid. And I think as you pointed out, Chris, that he was the one that got involved in Gordon getting sent off and missing the cup final. Yeah. But good player. But the only thing that turns me off Van Heck is that Brighton are very good sellers, and they're going to, like, he's contracted to 2027. They'll want big bucks, and we're not going to pay massive money from, but they'd probably want 60 million or something. We're not even going to look at that. And then I kind of put him in similar to Marc Guehi when I'm kind of weighing it all up. And if both of them are heading towards 25 in June and July respectively, and you look at Dean Huijsen and you look at Diamande, they're 2021, so there's like 4 years in the difference there that you're getting. So yeah, it's way everything up. Who would you go for? That's the question for the end.
Just to add in, sorry, Pete, just to very quickly add in, I had a quick look at the results for AC Milan in the past like 6, 7, 8 games, and in the last 4 games, Malik Chow has been on the bench. He hasn't even come on, and it just got me thinking. I wonder whether he's slowly being phased out, because I think 5 games ago he started and he scored, and then the last 4 games he hasn't played, and it's almost a bit like I look into things like this because if I knew a player was going to leave, or there was a likelihood he was going to leave, and you'd start focusing then on next season or cutting them out the team or not starting them. I just wondered whether that was significant or not, but yeah, I just thought I'd highlight that. I just had a little look there, but yeah.
We're doing exactly the same with Sean Longstaff. We did exactly the same with Miguel Almiron. It's the same process. But for me, John Paul Van Heck, I think he's a very good centre back. And I know you mentioned he's got 2 years left on his deal, but as we know, the magic 2 years, it can go either way. Are Brighton going to want Van Heck to get into the last year of his contract and sell him on the cheap, or are they going to want to try and maximise his sale now? If Brighton don't get European football this season, which is a genuine chance, does that bring the fee down? I think it does. I think there's a chance that fee comes down. And look, a lot of people. I read some of the comments when the link came up, and some of the people were like, Van Heck, he ain't even that good. Well, there's some stats here that suggest otherwise. In the top 5 league centre-backs in progressive actions, and that's the key. We want a progressive centre-back. We don't want just a solid defender, a Lascelles type. We want someone that can progress the ball. Now, you look at Van Heck, he's one of the top performers, and you look at some of the centre-backs on there, another one, Nico Schlotterbeck, who we've been linked with as well, is on there too. So you look at that, and you look at his age, you look at his profile, and what's really interesting about that, if you look at the profile of the list below, he's at the top of that list, and you look at some of the centre-backs that are in there.
Yeah, bloody hell.
6th one. It seems very interesting. That 6th one there in the list.
Yeah, too right it is.
Florian Lejeune, a previous Newcastle United centre-back, is absolutely in that list. And, you've got the likes of Van Dijk that's further down that we talk about as an elite centre-back in all areas. He's 12th on the list. So you look at that, and actually it makes you think to yourself, is he someone that Newcastle United could take? Is he someone that you could bring in and partner alongside, like you said, Sven Botman? They'll know each other. They'll be aware of each other. They'll probably be even people that they speak to on a regular basis. Who's to say that Van Heck isn't the guy that could be brought in? Joachim Andersen at Fulham, another player that we were linked with. Okay, you look through that list, you've got Min-jae, another player that we've been linked with, who's also on that list as well. So you look at those
Zabarnyi,
lists.
Pete.
Sorry?
Zabarnyi, just below.
Who's a fantastic centre-back, not in the same mould with those sort of progressive players like Dean Huijsen and one or two others that we look at and would like, but he's a solid defender, proper defender. So you look at that, and they're all the type of players that we're linked with, and it makes you think, maybe Van Heck isn't the out of the question. So Jean-Paul Van Heck is potentially an option for Newcastle United, and those three are quite interesting ones we need to keep an eye on. But as we talked about, Nico Schlotterbeck apparently had a video call with Newcastle United. Is this a load of rubbish, boys? Is there any truth to this? I know we were linked with him when we were looking at Botman way back when.
The source is good there, I think, where that came from. But
they report on they report on the news blog all the time. But Patrick Berger does report on all things German football, so he is very good. But you think what we thinking? Realistic? Not realistic?
Yeah, he's 25 at the moment. Going to be 26 next year, obviously. It's a big move. I think he's got a couple of years left in his contract as well, so that'll be a big outlay but maybe he fancies a move. Great player, though. If we get him.
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure that that's one to happen. If I'm right in thinking, he's a left-sided centre-back.
I was going to say, is he not left-footed? I thought he was.
Left-sided centre-back, which is why he was looked at alongside
Botman.
When you see that link, and I said it to you boys separately in the chat, when I saw that link, I thought, I'm not quite sure. Getting another left-sided or left-footed centre-back, I'm not sure it is exactly the one that we're after. Now he is missing the rest of the season. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's till October. If that's been confirmed, then that's been confirmed quite recently. But I knew he was injured and out for the rest of the season, which throws that off. Dortmund seem to think that he's staying. It seems to think that he's going to extend his contract, but that's coming from the club, not necessarily the player.
Is this being used? Are we being used here then as a to drum up contract? You know,
it happens.
It
happens.
happens.
So that was something that came out. I believe I saw this today. So that come out more recently after the initial links with Schlotterbeck. So yeah, not quite sure on that one. There's a couple of other interesting ones, not necessarily linked with Newcastle, but ones to keep an eye on. But we know that this man is linked or has been linked with Newcastle United, King Min-jae. He's 28. Is that the bracket of signing of centre back that we're looking at, boys? I know that there's talk that he would be keen potentially to move to the Premier League or move from Bayern Munich. What do we think about this one with Newcastle being linked?
It's a no for me because he's 28, he's 29 in November, and he's in contract till 2028, so they'll want a massive fee for him. So it doesn't make any sense. We should be, especially when we're talking about lads here that are 20, 21, so that have the sell-on value and number of years they can give. Now, of course, he could do a great job for us as well, but the outlay we have to spend on him, we wouldn't get it as a return. So we've got to think in that fashion as well.
Yeah.
Any interest of you, Chris?
Yeah, I think Cadet as well. Just to add to what Daz has said there, I imagine he'd be on pretty big wages. I think he moved from Napoli, didn't he? It was Napoli to Bayern. So I imagine he would command a pretty big fee. I mean, people saying he's too old. I know. He's only 28. So you get a good 4 to 5 years out of him. But the way that our transfer model he wouldn't really fit our transfer model. I think the only way that we would sign a player like Kim Min-jae is if, for example, you could get a decent price for him. But I imagine Bayern Munich would want a pretty hefty fee. I think you're probably talking north of 40 million, maybe 50, 60. And I just don't know. I just don't know whether that would make much financial sense. 3 or 4 years' time, obviously he'll be too old at that point, but I'm talking hypothetically. 3 or 4 years' time, they could be the kind of signers that we make, bringing in real elite established players. But I just don't think we're there yet, commercially and stuff. We need to be sound in our decision making when it comes to bringing in signings. So for me, I don't see us moving for Min-jae, unless, of course, Bayern Munich are desperate to get rid and they offer them for like 30 million, in which case we might be interested. But I just don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see it either. For those reasons, I just don't think Newcastle will be going into the market to buy Munich. You know why I don't think this will happen? I'm looking at what Man United did with De Ligt last season.
Yes.
They did exactly the same thing, and look what's happened. Look what De Ligt's doing for Man United. Absolutely nothing. There's an issue there with centre backs. Upamecano's another one. They've signed some highly profile centre backs by Munich have, and none of them seem to be hitting the mark at all. I just think it's going to be a difficult one. An interesting one here, Nathan Collins at Brentford. On a summer move, Ollie at the NUFC blog reports that Newcastle are interested in Nathan Collins. What do you make of this one? This is a bit of a left field.
This is the sorry, Peter. No, this is the first time I've seen his name being linked to us. I know Mr. Sean Casey is all about Nathan Collins. He's been talking about him for a while in the Irish Mags chat. 24 years old, came from Cherry Orchard in Dublin, and yeah, he's been playing really well in the Premier League. He stepped it up. I know he's had a few moves in the last while. He commanded a nice fee as well, though. To bring again a Brentford player, they are a selling club, as Frank has just said. But I don't know.
Was he the lads at Wolves or West Ham? Was it Wolves?
He was at
Wolves.
Yeah, he's at Wolves.
Yeah.
And who else? Burnley? No. Can't remember where else he was.
Friden's made a good point. He's not kind of. I think the reactions from you boys has kind of said it all. When the name's been said, it's not like that high profile centre back that people were thinking about.
Burnley as well. He played at Burnley.
Yeah. Good shot, guys. Good shot. Yeah. Do you know what? I think to be fair, that's a cracking comment from Frieden. Because it is, isn't it? If you see when you put the picture up, you probably couldn't see my reaction, but I was like, I don't know much about Collins, and I'm not going to say he's rubbish or he's not good enough because I haven't spent any time watching him. I'll be honest, but yeah,
he has improved, Chris. He's improved at Brentford because when he initially burst on the scene, I thought I took notice of him, and I thought, okay, he could be something. Then he took a dip, probably at Wolves. He took that dip, but yeah, I think he's come on a bit at Brentford. Still, though, I don't know. It'd be a crazy fee, I think, to get him.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think. I don't know how many years he's on his contract, but he's only after joining there, so. Let me see. He is contracted until 2029. Yeah, and the club have an option of 2 more years after that. So yeah, massive money to get him.
Okay. Maybe we'll just stick with Mbeumo. Maybe.
Yeah, that'll do.
The last one, another older bass player, Joelinton Tah. This is more of a would we take him? He's a free agent in the summer. Has played well at Bayer Leverkusen. Had a good run. Got a lot of interest. On a free transfer, would you take him?
I heard his name mentioned today. I think that with what you call him, who went from Sporting to Spurs and Bayern Munich, plays for England. Dyer, that he's gone to Monaco now, and Tah is someone that they're potentially. I think it was Tah that they're looking at bringing in. Yeah, Bayern Leverkusen. Yeah. So I don't know.
Very, very, very good centre back. obviously was outstanding for Bayern Leverkusen last season. And I believe he's played well this season as well. But I would like to be in the mix for him. But again, I think it was a bit, a bit like what we've said about previous opportunities to sign free signings. I think we go in with a limit and go, these are the wages. We'd like to sign you. I don't think we get into a bidding war over him. But I think he's a top player, and if we managed to get him, it'd be a hell of a coup, and I think he'd be a really, really good player for Newcastle. And again, going back to the attributes and stuff, yeah, big, strong, tall, not slow. I think he's got a little bit. I wouldn't say he's rapid, but he's decent pace wise. And I think he'd offer a good foil for Sven Botman going forward. And if you're getting him on a free, ideal. But the thing that worries me is the wages, and also the fact that he's a pretty. I wouldn't say he's a household name, but he's not far off it. So I think there would be a lot of clubs who would be in for him and see it like ourselves. As a bit of a potential to bring someone in on a free who's a very, very, very good player. I worry about the wages. I think I could see him joining like a Chelsea, because Chelsea would go, oh, it's 300 grand a week, and then we'd just be like, yeah, okay, that's the end of that. That's how I see it with Jonathan Tah. What about you, Pete?
I like him. I think he's a good centre back. I do agree with Sophie B. He's been heavily linked with Bayern Munich. But yeah, I think if someone pays him enough money, he's on a free transfer. He's always going to get more money, bigger wages. Be an option, not for Newcastle United, but yeah, it'd be an option for somebody in the Premier League. Someone who want to pay crazy money to get him. I won't rule out Man City with some of these centre backs that we've looked at tonight. Man City are definitely looking at another centre back for sure. So a Dean Huijsen, a Marc Guehi, Jonathan Tah, someone that's a good defender, either experienced or not. I think they'll be looking at bringing somebody else in potentially this summer as well.
And of course, they robbed Kushinov off us that time. But another name, I don't think you have it, Pete, but from Lons, the connection there, Facunda Medina is a name that we've been linked with as well. He's 26 in May. He's left-footed though. He's Argentinian international. Kind of aggressive kind of centre back, loves to lunge in, but well-timed lunges in very like Kushinov when we're looking at him. But I don't think that wouldn't happen because of I think, unless we were getting a good deal on that. But a name that was being mentioned as well. Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. Lots of names going to be linked over the course of the summer. No doubt we'll be talking about it, and won't be the last time we talk about centre backs. But there were the names for tonight.
No, a good selection and a strong selection. I think when we went through them all, there wasn't any that we were like, oh no, I don't want him. No, he's no good. So I think if we were to get one or maybe a couple, if we're being greedy, that would be really good. Yeah, some really good options. And I think if we signed any of those, we'd be reasonably happy. The only one I suppose you could question, given what we said at the end, is maybe Nathan Collins. But if if he's promising as what Daz has suggested he could be, and the fact that he can only improve and get better, and you got him for a decent fee rather than paying too much, it could be a good option.
So the question now is, who do you want from the names you mentioned, and you can have a second option as a wild card.
Okay.
So I can go first. I go for Dean Huijsen. It's my number one pick, and my wild card would be Osman Diomande. It's the two I'm going to put my hat in the ring for.
Okay. Pete, do you want to go next or me?
No, you go for it.
Okay. So I'm going to give you Daz. The one that I'd really like is Dean Huijsen. I think he would be absolutely outstanding if we could get him, but we got to get him early. And the wild card. Do you know what? I was thinking earlier about a player that we mentioned ages ago, but I chose not to pick him because I've not watched him at all this season, but he is a player that I'm a fan of, and he is 28, and that's Gleason Bremer, who's currently at Juventus.
Oh yes,
yeah, I
that's
did.
not Godfrey. Don't mind.
Mate, I liked his profile, and I thought he'd be like an ox. I think he'd be brilliant, but I haven't seen him this season, so I can't pretend to say I have, because he might have been awfully for Juventus this season, and I'm just unaware of it, so I can't really bring him. So. I did have a backup option, and funnily enough, somebody in the chat said his name, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'll have to say it now." And that is Jared Branthwaite.
Oh.
I know. Maybe I'm saying that with my blue devil horns on. I don't know, but I just think it would be the best thing ever if we were to just go and take Jared Branthwaite from Everton, who they, wax Liverpool over. Very, very, very good centre-back, by the way, in all seriousness. Very, very good centre-back. He is left-footed, but he is equally as comfortable on the right, and I know that Sven Botman is exactly the same. And I almost think, boys, if we had the defence of Tino Livramento, Sven Botman, Jared Branthwaite, and Lewis Hall, that is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. How much he would cost, I don't know. Some of the Blues have died down a bit from the 100 million. I think everyone was getting a little bit overexcited there. But I still believe, even under this new ownership, I still believe that if you were to go in with a 50, 60 million pound offer, maybe, who knows, maybe even offer a player in return, a Sean Longstaff or Joe Willock, I don't know, to try and sweeten that deal. I'm not sure, but I think as a player, I think Jared Branthwaite is excellent, and I think there's a lot more to come. He's a great age. I don't need to sell him to you boys; you know all about him. But he would be my wild card. But I appreciate he's left-footed, so you can see that maybe it doesn't fit exactly. But I think if the opportunity came up, he'd be a good one.
Pete.
I like Branthwaite. I'm not paying that money for him though. I don't think he's worth it personally, but he's decent. He's decent. He's got a lot of growing to do before he kind of makes that step up, which is why I think a lot of big teams haven't gone in for him. There's a reason why only Man United genuinely wanted him. I think there's a reason why England cut him out of the team and picked Dan Burn instead when he was fit and ready to play. I think there's still big question marks for me. But Dean Huijsen is the one. It has been for over a year. I'd love to sign him, and I'm trying not to get too excited about that one, which is why I don't tend to talk about it a lot, because I know how good he is. And I would hate the thought of him going to another top team in this country that can actually challenge Newcastle United, because I think he's going to be an elite centre-back for years. But a wild card, we've talked about Van Heck and one or two others. I talked about Maxence Lacroix, but another one to throw out there, Alexandro Ribeiro at Lille. Now, Alex, who we had on the show, talked about him. Very, very good centre-back. 25 years old. I think he'd be a perfect replacement for Fabian Schär. Doesn't do all the things on the ball that Fabian Schär does. He's got a contract till 2028, but I think he's a player that we could get at a decent price, considering they didn't pay a lot for him. I think he's valued at about 13.5 million at the moment on various websites. But he'd be one that I'd throw in. But yeah, Maxence Lacroix is another alternative. I think we'd have to pay a little bit more than the 17 that Palace played in the summer. I mean, we could have had Dean Huijsen for 13, 14 million. Maxence Lacroix for 17 million. It's frustrating in one sense, but at least we know now they can definitely play in the Premier League, and they're good players, they're top players. And I think with that, you're willing to pay a little bit more. But there's a couple.
It was interesting, Pete, because as soon as you said the name, I remembered that Lominos had put this in the chat. So it was interesting that you brought that name up. And funnily enough, when you had that image up earlier, Pete, you know, was it progressive passing, I want to say. Alexandro did appear on that list, didn't he? But he was shown as Alexandro, which may have thrown people off. I think he was number 12, is he?
Yeah, 12. Yeah.
So he is on the list as well. He is on the list. Interesting one. And in terms of potential and value, Pete, it's a great shout because you're not paying through the nose for them. And as you rightly point out, Maxence Lacroix coming in for 17, Huijsen coming in for 13. Sometimes you've got to take that risk abroad, haven't you? And just go, you know what? May not be the finished article, but let's have a punt on them. Let's have a go and see if we can develop them. And who better to develop them than someone like Hezi Howe? So yeah, that could be a masterstroke, mate.
Another Brazilian, eh?
Yeah.
You never know.
That as well.
3-2. Inter.
3-2. Oh.
Yeah, show us that scores, Pete, there. With your fingers.
Let's see.
We get when he puts them down. There it is. There he is.
Actually, I'm happy about that one, so I don't mind the Blues for that one.
It's the little things.
Yeah.
Nice ones.
Yeah.
Any questions before we wrap?
Do you know what, mate? We've got some interesting ones. Well, Bill, I'm very sorry, mate. I'm very, very sorry. And I say I'm sorry. We touched on it, mate. We did touch on it. But Bill said earlier, for anyone listening audio-wise, Bill did ask, it's gone a little quiet recently, but do you think Newcastle could be back in for Malik Chow? So anyone who's just tuning in and hasn't heard us talk about Malik Chow, have a little rewind and you'll hear us talking about him. Bill, it was a good suggestion, mate. Absolutely good suggestion. This one was interesting from Tom Dixon, a little bit left field, not centre-back related, but he says, Eberechi Eze is ready to leave Crystal Palace this summer. Would you take him? Now, firstly, I'm going to ask you that, so just a yes or no for that one. But also, I'm going to ask, do you think, and we've kind of alluded to it a little bit, some of these clubs are going to have to sell players to build capital, to bring money in and prevent a whole fire sale kind of thing. Do you think that maybe Palace might be tempted to sell the likes of Maxence Lacroix in order to keep Eberechi Eze? Or do you think they're more likely to sell Eze knowing that, his time probably is up at Crystal Palace to keep hold of Lacroix? So that was going to be my question.
Yes, he's a good player. I don't think we'll go from there. He's more 3-3, more Blues on the way.
What a game.
Oh, didn't like that. I don't. He's plays on the left more so than, and I know he can play in the center as well. So I don't know. And again, you're going up against Steve Parish, another generational talent. But it's the whole Jamie Rubin connection because he was a QPR, and yes. There's that link that Jamie Rubin had there as well. But I don't think so. I don't think Elise would have been the one if we could have got him. That would have been unreal. But I'd rather get Guehi if we're going to Crystal Palace. Get Marc Guehi and get that sorted.
Yeah. What about yourself, Pete?
If I'm honest, if I'm going to Palace, well, look, you're looking at Palace and they're having a good season. They've got a great spine. We're talking to Dee about this. Like they've actually got a really good spine of players, and their spine is not as bad as what you think. But you're looking at Eze and you're thinking, right, how old is he now? Was he 24, 25, something like that? Or maybe 24, 26. Can't remember how old he is, but he's at the point now.
26.
Okay.
He's at the point now.
27 in June.
So again, it just emphasizes my point. He's at the point now where it's now or never.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a Wilfried Zaha, being at Palace until you're 30 and then going on a free transfer, or do you want to make the step in your prime years and play at the top level? Because Palace will have good seasons here and there, and what consists of a good season for them is not what is consisted of a good season for us. So they were jumping up and down, finishing 10th last year. They were thinking that just getting Europa Conference was seen as a good season, but that's not a good season for us. And that I don't think would be considered a good season for Eze. Eze wants to be playing European football, Champions League football. And I think at some point he's going to have to turn around. And I think it's the same with Marc Guehi this summer. They're going to have to turn around and have the difficult conversation and say, you know what, thank you for everything you've done for me, but I want to be playing at a high level. And I think that's the key there. So will they sell other players to try and keep Eze? I think they probably would.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's going to be a case of they've got no choice. It's He's got a release clause as well. I think it's the same, around 60 million as it was last year. So his release clause will kick in at some point. You know, would you pay 60 million for Eze?
No,
not right now. No.
No, we have left wingers already that with Gordon and Barnes.
No.
And I know he's going to be 27 as well, so no.
Would you consider playing? Because I would. Would you consider playing Eze in the Joelinton position? I'll tell you now. I would. I think you could mold Eze into that position. He doesn't give you the same qualities as Joelinton, but what you get with Eze is the creativity that you lack with Joelinton. I think you'd be able to break down low blocks with Eze next season than you would with Joelinton.
I'm not paying 60 million for a 27-year-old to try and find a home for him in our first 11. So no, it's a no for me.
And it's an interesting point, because this is why I think it's such a key summer for Eze, because I agree. I don't think anyone is paying 60 million for it.
No,
but he's going to have to really push the boat out. He's going to have a difficult conversation with Palace if he's going to then leave for something less.
Yeah, he is. He's gonna have to, isn't he? Put in a transfer request or something. Yeah, and risk. You know, obviously upsetting his legacy at Palace, particularly Pete, if they go and win the FA Cup.
Yeah, but I think it comes increasingly hard to sign anyone from Palace if they win the FA Cup, because they're going to be in Europe.
Yeah,
I think even with Marc Guehi, don't be surprised if he gets European football and they try and sign him to an extended contract, even if it's another year extended, just to knock the can down the road for a year or so. I think they'll try that. But yeah, Holland's back in training. Rodri's back in training. I saw Palace winning the FA Cup until I found out those two things, and I'm like, I think Man City will win that.
Yeah. But the thing with Eze as well, he's not a right winger, he's not a right-sided centre defender, he's not a goalkeeper, and he's not someone that can help out Isak. So he's someone we don't need. In this, it's well down the list of things we need. I'd say.
Yeah,
we maybe need someone in midfield, right?
Yeah, he's in a funny place at the moment, Eze, isn't he? He's almost priced out of a move, because funnily enough, if you rewound 12, 18 months, I reckon there would have been quite a few clubs queuing up, willing to pay that fee for him. Yes, they didn't make the move, granted, but I think there would have been a lot more interest than what there is right now. And I wonder whether the move of, like, say, James Maddison to Tottenham has made clubs kind of take a step back and go, actually, you know, is that the kind of right move that we want to be making? Or should we be looking, you know, at more young, progressive players, taking a risk and paying 20, 30 million less? I don't know, but it's an interesting one. But yeah, I agree with you boys. I can't see anyone meeting his clause. I really can't. On the subject of spines, and on the subject of Crystal Palace's spine, this was a question for you, Pete, from Lee G, and he says, would you ever consider taking the Palace goalkeeper Henderson? Now, you did mention him in the last show, Pete, but go for it. What do you think?
Well, firstly, I think he's a really good goalkeeper. I always have thought he was brilliant. I thought that season when he was on loan at Sheffield United, I thought he was absolutely sensational. He was so good. Injuries screwed him over at Forest, but he was excellent at Forest. So I just think he's a really good goalkeeper. He's not the type of goalkeeper that I think I would want Newcastle United to make their next goalkeeper, just because for me he doesn't command his area enough. Yeah, I've got certain things that I want from my goalkeeper. I want my goalkeeper to be really tall, so minimum 6'3", 6'4". Like, so they've got a presence in the goal. So that's why I love Nick Pope, because he's got a big presence in the goal. He fills the goal. I want them to be able to come and demand their area. I want them to come and make catches. I want them to come and punch. I want them to command their area to take the pressure off the defence. And then they need to be a good shot stopper. And then to hit the full remit, they can be good with their feet. They're the kind of things that I'm looking at. And he's good at most of those things, Dean Henderson, but he doesn't command his area enough for me to mean that he's a goalkeeper that I think will be signed for Newcastle United. So I probably wouldn't. There are other goalkeepers out there that I would want ahead of him. Some very, very good goalkeepers that I would want ahead of him. But yeah, he'd be on the list, put it that way, but not right at the top.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Will it be on our list when we do a fully loaded transfer show on goalkeepers? That is the question.
Who knows? Who knows? And talking of future shows, and sorry we're not going to answer this, Tom. But Tom says, with speculation regarding some of our more senior players, who would you like to see stay or likely go? Now, Tom, you're going to have to wait for that, mate, because we are going to be doing squad games towards the end of the season or once the season is finished. I think it'll be once the season's finished, being honest. But we're going to go through the squads. We're going to assess our options, and we will produce a squad game show, especially for you, Tom. So bear with us, and we will come back to that, and you will see our responses and what we're thinking. Couple of quick ones. But I will say this before I go to the couple of quick ones. Massive thank you to Novo Castria. Thank you very much, Novo, for the 5 gifted loaded mag memberships. Top man. Thank you so much. It is much appreciated. And congratulations to the 5 new loaded ultras in the chat.
Game 4-3 Inter.
Ooh.
It doesn't count unless you show us those fingers, Pete.
Can you do it in 2s, please, Pete?
Break it down.
Yeah, 2, and then 2, and then 1.
Where is it? Where's the balloons?
Where's the balloons? Oh, God. It mustn't be a goal. Oh!
Yay, something new.
Fireworks.
It goes dark in it.
Yeah, fireworks.
VAR are checking it, apparently.
Right, okay.
In the last 5 minutes, though, they've had like 2 or 3 like one-on-ones where the ball's just been played long and they've been in every time. I don't know what Barcelona's defense is doing, but like it's mad.
Crazy game.
Whose idea was to have this show while the game was on?
You tell us.
No comment.
Might be my fault. That was this time. But
but let's go with these last 2, and I particularly like the last one, and that's a good way to end it. But this is a very quick one. This is from Friday81, and he says, with Joe out for the season, do we go 5-4-1 with Botman back against Arsenal and Chelsea? Quick one for you boys.
I think that's genuinely a plan that can happen. I think that's something that genuinely can happen. Going to a back 3, because we've done it before against Arsenal this season. We know it works. If you cut off the passing lines and those gaps in between the fullback and the centre backs by having 3 at the back, it stops Arsenal being able to play. And remember, they've not got a striker, so you cut out their wing play, you reduce their wing play, and it reduces massively their game. And then it's just a case of, are you strong enough to defend their set pieces, which we know we are. We've done it all season. So I think Arsenal, absolutely. I would not be surprised if that is our formation that goes in. Chelsea, I don't think so. I think our team, even without Joelinton, is strong enough to beat Chelsea. Genuinely do. I think our attacking threat will cause Chelsea's defence so many problems. I don't know if you watched Chelsea in their last game, but couldn't help but watch them against Everton. And if Everton had a half decent striker, they'd have bagged 2 and won that game comfortably. Like, they gave up so many opportunities, and that was Chelsea at home. Chelsea away from home haven't got the capabilities of going, right, we're going to sit in and be really difficult to beat. They're going to play the same way, and they're going to concede a lot of chances. And I genuinely think we could actually destroy them on the break. Yeah. I really do. Yeah, if we're on song and we're properly at it, I think on the break we could absolutely hammer them.
Yeah.
So no to Chelsea, yes to Arsenal is my answer. Sorry.
My answer here would be consider it for the away games, but not for the home games. But I do like when we do play that formation, that the way that Char is just roams. He goes on an adventure and he can just pop up anywhere and bag a goal. So that's always something interesting to watch. And he kind of plays more defensive midfielder than that. And that's when we do kind of play that formation.
Yeah. Interestingly, I would probably want to answer this question after the Brighton game. Because, as you boys know, I mentioned on the last show that if we were to beat Brighton, Chelsea becomes do not lose. So, as much as I completely agree with what Pete's saying, I think we're more than capable of beating Chelsea at St James's Park. I'm not worried about Chelsea. But just as an extra layer of protection, I wouldn't be opposed to it, is what I'm saying. And I still think we'd be equally as dangerous in a 5 at the back, 5-4-1, or a 5-2-3 maybe. We'd still be equally as dangerous. So yeah, I want to see how the Brighton game goes first, I think, and then maybe go from there. But boys, I need a number off you for this next one. Okay, I'm changing it to a number. So we have a question from Daniel Ago, and Daniel asks, I really like this question, and I want you to give me a score out of 10. So fast forward to the start of the season. And this has been our summer transfer window in terms of major signings. I'm not suggesting that these are the only signings we've made, but these are the 3 big key signings, and I want you to mark it out of 10, in your opinion.
Okay.
50 million, Dean Huijsen. 45 million, Yohan Bakayoko. 50 million, Hugo Ekitike. Out of 10, what do you mark that window?
8.25.
8.25. I'm pointing the wrong way. 8.25. Pete?
9.
I'm on 9. Why, out of interest, why is it 9 and why is it 8.25? What's the reason? Why is it not 10? I'm not saying it should be 10. I'm just asking why it's not 10.
For me, on the Huijsen, yes, full marks, 10 out of 10. Bakayoko, I don't know. I think I'd rather some of the same concerns I had before. He's someone coming new to the Premier League, the Dutch league. Is not he does look quality, of course, and that's a good price there as well. So that's why I'm taking some marks off. And Ekitike, I think it's a great price for if we can get him for that. But I think we won't get him for that, and I think I'd rather someone else.
Pete?
I've got no issue with those 3 players coming in. I think that's a massive improvement to our team and squad. The only reason it's a 9 is because I think we can get Bakayoko for cheaper.
Oh.
So paying 45 for Bakayoko for me, I think is what pulls it down to a 9, because I'm looking at that and I'm thinking if you're paying 45 for Bakayoko, I think we can not necessarily at 45, maybe a little bit more, but I think we could get Mbeumo for a little bit more than that.
Pete,
and that's the only reason why it's a 9, because I think, I for me, if we're going to get Bakayoko, I'm thinking more 30 million. I'm thinking more 30 million, not 45.
Yeah.
I'll go 9.25 if we get Mbeumo in there in that list.
This, boys, is why we're so good as a channel, so good together, because I completely agree with you boys. And I was thinking to myself, I would go 9 as well. And the reason I'd say 9 is because if it was in Burmo, I'd probably say 10. Because I love Ekatike, I love Huijsen. And I'm not saying I don't like Bakayoko, but I'm thinking imagine if we got Ekatike and Burmo. Like that is just unreal. And then to add Huijsen at the back as well, thinking of Botman, and yeah, it's silly.
Trafford.
Silly.
And this is what we need. This is what we need to go to the next level. If we want to, we've not signed for 3 windows. If we're now going to sign players to really kick us up a gear and be a team that goes right next season, we're going to go and get Champions League again. Hopefully we get this season. But if we do get this season, it's a case of we go and put our money where our mouth is and go, right, we're going to build a team that can go and do it again. And that's what you want to see. And you want to see that level of signing. The Ekatike thing for me, some will say, I don't think we'll get someone like that to come and sit on the bench and whatever. I don't see it like that. I see it like you look at the recent games, you can tell that Isak's not 100%. You can tell that he's playing with some form of injury. This is where you want Ekatike or someone like that to come in and be playing these last few games where you're not having to put all your eggs in Isak's basket, where you can rest up and when he comes and plays, he can play at 100%. This for me, these last few games are a classic example. He's still scoring, but you can tell he's not 100%. You can tell and this is not, I'm not hammering him because it's not his fault. He's actually playing, in my opinion, I think he's playing through the pain barrier, which you got to admire. He's not moaned about it. He's not just gone on with it, and you respect it. And he's still scoring goals regardless. But this for me is where if you've got an Ekatike or you've got that level of player to come off the bench or even start, like that's where you've got, like Villa, for example. Rashford's not playing well, Watkins is in. Watkins not playing well, Rashford's in. They operate the same regardless of who's playing up top. Like that's the level that we need to be looking at now. Is 2 quality strikers playing up there. So this is what I really want to see in the summer. This type of signing across the board.
Are we spending 145 million in the summer?
I think so.
That's what we're saying there.
Okay,
well then after we do the goalkeepers, maybe we'll do something like a show that we each bring one of each position, and we let the audience rate our your 4, my 4, Pete's 4, something like that.
And say who do you think which one would be the best window? Yeah,
and we give ourselves a budget to work with it. That realistic budget.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a good idea, though. It's a good idea. And yeah, just to follow on from what you were saying then, Pete, very quickly, you're right about Isak. He doesn't look right. He looks like he's, could do with a little bit of a rest. Not to say he's injured, but he clearly needs to be taken out the fray. But unfortunately, we don't really have that option at the moment. Wouldn't it be great if we were to have someone like Ekatike, where you'd be going, right, you're playing against Brighton, Isak, get yourself ready for that Chelsea game. We need you for that Chelsea game. And he's got a little 2 weeks to sort himself out. Something like that would have been perfect. But that's what happens when you don't have that squad depth. You just end up, unfortunately, flogging certain players over and over and over again. And sooner or later, you get stung by it, which we found out after the Champions League season.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, boys, that was the last question.
That is it. We are back, though, tomorrow. Sorry, you boys are back. I won't be able to join you, but you boys are back for away days tomorrow for the Brighton. Tell us more about it, lads.
Yeah, we've got Adam back. Adam from Together BHA. He's coming to talk the big game. We've not been able to get him on recently because he's work commitments and various other things. So I think with it being such a big game, he's making some time to make sure he can come and join us, even if it's for half an hour, 40 minutes. So it'd be good to get Adam's perspective on Brighton, get his potential lineup and talk about 1 or 2 things, Brighton and Newcastle. Should be a really good show. Looking forward to it. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be some interest in the lineups and what we go for. So yeah, come join us and get your comments in the chat nice and early.
Yeah.
Make sure you remember to smash that like button on the way out as well, and share it as well to any of your friends. Tell them about Loaded.
Oh yes,
Ali.
Tickle Matanali. But big thanks for your £5 super chat. Would you take Wisa and Umbramo in a double deal?
I would, and then I could sell it to Wolfie. Wisa.
Yeah.
Both got a year left in the contract.
Yeah, I mean, if the price was right, going back to the Nathan Collins type signing, I don't think Vissa's very sexy. But that's not to say he's not a good player, and it's not to say he would improve on what we've got at the moment. Would they take Vissa over Callum Wilson at the moment? Absolutely.
Yeah. And Bueno and Collins, another option. I think I want to sell too many though. Brentford still want to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, could be difficult for them. Friday, good man. You know the score. Loaded over Champions League that Newcastle aren't playing in. We'll watch it back. We'll watch it back.
It's not like this show is. You have to watch the show live, or you'll miss the action. Right, that's it. You've had your lot. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night. Remember the players we have as well, though.
Each and every single day, I know I'm going to have to eventually give you